Hello everybody, and just here and welcome back to Frieren, episode 11, in which what? That's a very good question. In which I expect we're going to have a little bit of a downtime after an episode like that, after an episode like episode 10. I fully expect at least a little bit of downtime. I don't think we're gonna get into anything remotely as exciting this soon. But what was so big about the previous episode? Well, the previous episode is probably single-handedly responsible for the Frieren fandom and the amount of Frieren fan art and discussion and whatnot completely blowing out. Completely and entirely blowing up. The amount of memes I've seen, the amount of alternate timeline art that I've seen, the amount of discussion I've seen on fucking 4chan of all places even. It's staggering. It really is staggering. And all of that because Frieren told Aura to go and unalive herself. Yeah, that really sent waves throughout the anime fandom, and I love it. I love it. It was great. It was great. What happened in the previous episode in more detail? Well, Frieren had a little bit of a fight with Aura. Can't really call it a fight. Really, just a standoff, mostly. Just a standoff of Aura being all cocky and confident, and Frieren being her usual self. And in the end, it turned out that scales tipped over to Frieren's side, and she resolved the issue with Aura existing very, very quickly. So, as far as the events of the show, events of that episode, not much really happened. But the strength of those events was really high. We also learned some really useful things. We learned that humans and elves can make their mana appear smaller, appear less. It's not seen as something I don't know, moral, something honorable. It's seen as subterfuge, as dishonorable and whatnot, but it is a tool they can use. And it's not a tool that demons can use, because demon hierarchy is based not on wealth but on strength. If you exude a lot of mana, you're powerful, you're higher up the pecking chain, the pecking order. If you don't have a lot of mana, you are way down below. You become just a regular grunt, going to war and dying for the king. So, demons are not going to conceal, not quite. They can conceal their mana completely because it's seen as a tool of just concealing their presence, but they will not make their mana appear less. Because if they completely hide their mana, well, it's obvious that they are hiding, right? Because no being in the world has just zero mana. I assume that every living being has at least a little bit of mana. If you don't have any, it's immediately understandable that you are just hiding it for some reason. If you have less mana, appear to have less mana, well, do you actually have less mana? Or are you just lowering the output? Which is it? It's ambiguous. So in the world of the demons, it automatically puts you lower in the hierarchy. Because despite you perhaps consciously lowering the amount of mana, the effect is that you have lower amount of mana. So we are lower on the chain of command. It's not an issue to humans and elves, but it's still seen as dishonorable. That's the big advantage they have over demons, though. Deception. Demons can be very easily deceived that way. Lugner was deceived that way. Aura was deceived that way. It seems to be a very potent weapon against them. We also learned more details from Frieren's backstory. We know that her village of elves was destroyed by demons. She was the sole survivor and managed to wipe all the demons out. So we know what her gripe with the demons is, what is her grudge. We also know just how powerful she is, just how powerful she already was back in the times when she was still Flamme's apprentice, and now she's only grown stronger. We know that she's been suppressing her mana all the time, all her life, essentially. We learned how old she is, 1,000 of years, over 1,000 of years, I believe. Because Aura said, "Oh, can you really compete with a demon who was alive for 500 years?" And then Frieren released her limiters and retorted with, "Well, I wouldn't know how it is to be a demon who lived 500 years. I lived 1,000." And her amount of mana just completely engulfed the battlefield. We also know how the heroes, meaning Himmel, Stark, and Eisen, found Frieren. She was living calmly in a forest, hiding her mana to the point where her hider wasn't able to see how much mana she really has. She's been living on the outskirts in the hiding because, as Flamme said, don't stick out, don't put your name in the books, only do that after you defeat the Demon Lord. And that advice was also really useful because Aura fully believed that Frieren appeared a couple dozen years ago, so she's probably like 300 years old or whatever, no biggie, because there weren't any records of Frieren existing for thousands of years. So cool. And that's basically it. We learned a lot about Frieren, we learned a lot about the demons and their hierarchy. We even learned a lot about Flamme. We know that she also has a gripe against the demons. And yeah, and in today's episode I fully expect to see perhaps some celebration of the city being saved, or at least like a dinner with Graf Granat. And the second half of the episode, and perhaps a continuation of the journey, perhaps some flashbacks we'll see of the words, letters, the word sentences at the end of the previous episode kind of point us towards there being some flashbacks in this episode, but that's, you know, for the course. For Frieren, we are as much learning about the current times as we are learning about the past, about the times of hero Frieren. Yeah, I think that does it for the summary. So how about we just start watching this episode, right? To do that, you will of course need your subs to follow along with me. I'm going to need my sound to hear what's going on in the show. I'm gonna need to move my bottle closer to myself so it's easier accessible. And I'm also gonna have to ask you guys for your support. Support the channel if you want on Patreon or YouTube down below, or not. Share my content, spread the word, costs you nothing, helps a lot. And with that out of the way, we can start watching Frieren episode 11 in 3, 2, 1, go. I don't know why, but I have congested nose. I had no issues when recording Shield Hero right before, but now, suddenly, congestion. You should probably get that wound checked out. You praying for Aura? Or for the fallen people? Probably for all of the people who have fallen, who've been used, yeah, by Aura as puppets. Well, Granat can at least retrieve the pendant of his son. That's gonna be another memento. I assume that was his son, because the pendant was like the Granat family kind of a pendant. The exact same, or very similar at least to Granat's. Right, Frieren beyond Journey's End. So Sousou no Frieren, I assume, means Frieren beyond Journey's End. Unless it's just a bad translation. Like in Polish, Die Hard is translated to Szklana Pułapka, which translates to glass trap. Or maybe since kanji can be read like two different ways, maybe Sousou no Frieren means both Frieren on Journey's End as well as Frieren the Slayer. I don't know. Because in the show I heard plenty of times Sousou no Frieren, and it was translated in subs to Frieren the Slayer. So either the subs are translated wrong, the title is translated wrong, or both translations are correct. Right, and the earrings. Flamme seems to have a similar set. Stark, how are you walking? Yep, that's his son's pendant. Or, I guess a lot of different families' pendants. Yeah, for wasting mana. There we go. Now administer headpats. Yeah, this is a normal reaction. Don't worry about it. Is there even anything to bury inside of those suits of armor? Or are you just going to bury the suits with the pendants? And life is back to normal. Books. Give me books and scrolls. Notes, slips of paper will do. Okay, defensive barrier grimoire. Curious. Can you teach her this oral tradition, perchance? Oh? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. We've seen this. Yeah. Here comes the executioner. Why did you use a double-sided axe to do that? Oh, sure, just levitate him outside. Party time. Yep. A little bit of a festival, never hurt anybody. Just casually parading Stark around. Burger. They make burgers with whole fucking loaves of bread, I swear. Okay. A musical number. Why not? Do Frieren and Fern not have any healing spells, I wonder? The Executioner again. New clothes. Oh, winter clothes. So I guess they stayed for quite some time. Half a year at least. Aurora Borealis. Oh, you're turning this field into a memorial place? Oh, I thought the suits of armor well placed upright. But no, it was the soldiers honoring the swords. You should stay at least until, you know, not necessarily summer, but at least spring. I'm assuming traveling with non-zero temperatures would be easier. I mean, Frieren was probably never really interested in the official route towards magic certification or whatever. She never bothered. Her certification has already fallen apart just through the passage of time. Yeah. How old is it? Well, Frieren is older, so exactly. Try half a millennia, but even then Frieren is older. Okay, so we have our next goal. Oiserst. Give them a certification of safe passage or something, at least, maybe. I don't know. Also, how is her scarf tied? I'm trying to figure it out. But I don't know what kind of a scarf tie method it is. I know just the basic wrap and I think, what's it called? Oxford? When you make a loop and then put both ends through the loop and kind of tie it like a tie. Yeah. You never go to war during winter. especially if you're unprepared. That's why I said you should have waited for spring. I don't know, you got us in this situation. Raise a barrier, at least to protect yourselves from the elements. I love Fern. Grow some shelter. I know, make an igloo. Something. Don't tell me you don't have some sort of a shelter spell. Of course. Try 800. Oh, I guess they used this shelter during their travels, so it would be 8 years. Oh? Friend or foe? Probably friend. An elf! Okay. Color me surprised. We get to meet another elf. Yeah, another weirdo. I love Fern. What's this pendant you're wearing? Do the ears not give it away? Okay, so another long-lived one. Do you not have like flint and steel at least? A monk? Okay. Oh, so it's like a widespread knowledge that heaven exists? Or is it like a legend that it exists, or part of a religion that it exists, but no one actually physically was there? And Frieren actually wants to be, or is going to be the first one physically there. Of course. At least they didn't undress Stark completely. uh, I mean, he is a monk. He fights using their hands. Craft, like the cheese. Cheese. Okay, so we're gonna have some food at least. Perfectly preserved in the snow. Yeah, we need to wait anyway. That's why I said, wait for the spring. Why did you not wait for the spring? Flamme student. Yeah, we live a little bit more than 80 years, so of course you had to be someone before you became a hero. Stark's gonna get some training. That's good. Great, pinecone soup. And now everybody's praying. Man has a gift for proselytizing, doesn't he? God damn. You really should have stayed in the city for 6 more months. Yeah, I was about to say, it's interesting to see an elf be so religious. Young, sure. Let's go with that. Right, so I need to believe that they are in the afterlife. Yep. There's nobody witnessing my life except the goddess. Hmm. Okay, so we're getting more backstory on her. So just random vignettes from their journeys, I would... Oh, not quite as random, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yep. Very reminiscent. Oh, so he figured it out? Several, actually. Little did he know. Yeah, but they aren't sterile. Can you make one more pendant for me on second thought? I mean, with how long exactly? I was about to say, with how long-lived elves are, chances are they are going to meet eventually. Okay, that was a very nice downtime episode. Kinda exactly what I, well, not exactly what I expected, but like tone-wise, events-wise, pretty much exactly what I expected. Nothing particularly important, nothing particularly big. Just a nice underline underneath the previous arc. Okay, what are the keywords? A real hero. So, about Himmel? Audacium? Probably. Possibly. I don't know. We'll see. What we will see right now, though, is this episode again, as we always do. Yeah, the aftermath of the battle. All of those empty suits of armor with nobody to control them anymore. Must have been a fierce battle. Not really. Not really. But I guess it looks that way because of all the fallen puppets. Also, curious that Frieren doesn't believe in a goddess, but she still prays? Is it something she just picked up from Hyder? Or is she doing it for appearances? Or does she, I know, believe in the other worlds, but not in a goddess? So she prays for them to enter the heaven, but not for, I don't know, goddess's grace or something? I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. This is a normal reaction. Normal reaction to what? Normal reaction to what? Well, my first guess would, maybe let's go to a different frame. My first guess would be that despite Frieren not showing that the demon's words have an effect on her, they still do. So she still has some... she knows that the regret she feels after killing Aura is irrational, but she still has it. And she's like, yeah, it's a normal reaction. That's what their words and their fake tears and all of that is supposed to cause. So it's a normal reaction to those things. I feel like I killed a human, but I know consciously I didn't. I killed a monster, I killed a demon. It's a normal reaction. That would be my only explanation here. I don't know what else would she be talking about. A great job defeating them. Proper burials, and including Granat's son. Reward, a grimoire, a different defensive barrier, but Frieren doesn't care. Frieren doesn't care whether it's an original spell or a fake spell. All she cares about is that it's a spell. It's a barrier spell she doesn't know, so getting to know it, good in her book. Interesting that she didn't ask to be taught this original barrier spell. It's passed by oral tradition, so I would assume Granat knows it, so he could teach it to Frieren? I don't know. Yeah, they were all nearly executed for speaking casually to King. And yeah, the executioner appeared. This is a great camera work, great framing, how Stark is obstructed by Granat here. We don't see his reaction, only later on. In this town, you won't be thrown in prison just for speaking casually, yeah. And she's just parading him around the city, carrying him in the air. Some fun, some celebration. And a song. Fern helps rebuilding. Stark gets healed. Again, question, does Frieren or Fern not have any healing spells to heal him? Or is it just Stark was hurt in the defense of the city, so allow our city to heal him, kind of a sort of thing, right? Don't expend your precious mana, allow our priests to do that. Maybe. Warm clothes for the winter. Frieren really being an old grandma here. Those outward slanted eyes. Yeah. Low quality Frieren is great. Low res Frieren, rather. A lot of cats are accompanying them, I noticed. I was kind of confused what's happening here. I thought that those suits of armor are the suits of armor that laid there. They extracted the corpses, buried the corpses, but placed the suits of armor in a nice, neat formation with swords in front, so that it's a memorial site essentially. But apparently no, those are just the knights of the city, and it's just the swords and axes, I guess, who have been stabbed into the ground with pendants on them, and this is the memorial site. That also works. Even adventurers must be accompanied by a first-class mage. Certification. Certificate of 3rd rank magician. Let it be known, something being recognized as a 3rd something rank, I guess, magician. something mage association. The regulations of thought reaved something fern. Yeah, the organizations are constantly changing, and she simply cannot be asked to renew her certification every 50 years. It's as if you had to go and renew your driver's license every month, right? It would be bothersome. What is that? Antique, yeah. It's a hassle when they change their standards of conduct. And you can go to Oysarst. Yeah, Oysarst. And you can be certified there, but you need to cross those mountains. Don't look that big. I guess you could take the highway. You could perhaps also go by the whatchamacallit, by the shore. You could go around those mountains. It really seems like it wouldn't be that much longer, especially with how they got stuck in the mountains for 6 months. If they followed the shore, or if they went through the highway, I would assume it would take them less than 6 months to get there. But they didn't. Highway. Winters around here are bitter, so be careful. If you underestimate them, you'll die. So why did you set off in winter? See, this I don't get. Frieren knows this region, knows the dangers, but and also has a skewed impression of time. So for her, waiting until spring would be just nothing, right? It would be just a weekend of waiting, 2 days of waiting, an hour of waiting, perhaps even. To wait 6 months in the city, in the warmth of the city, and then set off in spring. But despite her knowing that it's going to be a tough journey, that they're going to have to face so many hardships on their way, that winters are treacherous here, etc., 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 they still decided to set off in winter. I really don't get it. Frieren really seems like she would be smarter than that. There should be an emergency shelter. Yeah, there is an emergency shelter, thankfully. With another elf. Again, or rather, again. I know that story-wise, narrative-wise, the reason why they set off in winter was that they can get stuck here together with Kraft. And so that Kraft can train Stark a little bit, can proselytize, they can get to know him, we get to learn about other elves, etc., etc., etc. Right? Narratively, I get the purpose of it, I get why it was done, but I really don't get why Frieren would just go with this plan. You know? It kind of feels like, I don't know, in horror movies, you have someone just act in a completely stupid way because it drives the plot forward, right? The smart thing to do would be to stay indoors, but someone has to open the door, go inside. Hey, Mr. Killer, are you out there? So that it can drive the plot forward, so that the killer can kill them, the doors are open, the killer can get inside and drive the plot, right? That's the only reason why the character is behaving in a stupid way. I wouldn't really think of this show, of this story, to use narrative tools like that to make Frieren behave unlike herself, to behave to make some very stupid decisions only to drive the plot. I really wouldn't expect that. So I wonder if it's an adaptation issue. Maybe there was something more about it in the source material, some better explanation as to why they have to set off now and not in a couple of months. I know, but this is the first thing throughout the course of this whole season so far. It's the first thing that really sticks out to me like a sore thumb. That really just doesn't work. Again, the effects of that decision work. I like that we meet Kraft, that we get stuck here, that Stark can train, that Fern can, be proselytized and learn about the goddess. Right? I like all of that, but I don't like how we got here, if that makes any sense. I love Fern. Kraft the monk, couple of mages. And of course, double take, sleeping with Kraft together, warming him up. Although they should have cuddled a little bit more for that warming up to get into effect, but I guess this is fine as well. Meanwhile, Fern and Frieren are just sleeping together in a corner. You get a nice body, old man. Nice body from training hard. I mean, yeah, he is a monk. Monks usually do train hard. Carrying some food. Yeah, this is a good question. I know the first thing about you. Yeah, I was a hero. She was a hero. And before that, you had at least a couple of hundred of years of life. So you had to be someone before you were a hero, right? I guess not so much in case of Frieren. Frieren really, before becoming a hero, she just was Flamme's apprentice. That was her role, that was her occupation. Demon Slayer, maybe, I guess you could say that, but mostly just Flamme's apprentice. She wasn't any renowned researcher of magic, right? Nothing of the sort. She purposefully stayed out of the history books. Stark gets some much needed training. I guess they got to painting some rocks into the image of the goddess. This is a cool progression. Before we saw just Kraft and Fern praying to the goddess. Now Stark also joined the team, and later on we also see Frieren do that. Yeah, right? Does the amount of... No, I thought the amount of goddess statues also increases, but it doesn't seem to. 6 months. It really feels to me like they could have waited those nearly 6 months in the city. We made it through the long winter. Excluding during the age of mythology, the goddess of creation hasn't shown herself once in the long history of this world. Is there any, like, definite proof that she existed in the case of mythology? Because if there is, then I can absolutely see it, why people are so ready to believe in her, because, hey, there is a proof she existed. She doesn't show up much nowadays, if at all, but she did exist, so it's not a matter of believing in her, it's a matter of facts. She existed. She exists. Stands to reason, so of course I believe in her, because it's a fact. Meanwhile, if the Age of Mythology is just that, just mythology, then I can see non-believers existing, absolutely. You're young. I wonder if he says it because Frieren genuinely is young compared to him. Maybe he was alive during the Age of Mythology. Like, entirely possible. Or does he just not know how old Frieren is? Both theories are equally plausible. Everyone who knew of my righteous triumphs has died. Yeah, so I want someone to know of my deeds, to remember them, and to praise me for them. Everyone I knew is dead. There's nobody to praise me for what I did, for my life. There's going to be nobody on my deathbed that would know of all the things I did, except an omniscient being. So I have to believe that an omniscient being exists who will remember all my deeds, who will praise me for them. Makes perfect sense that people would need gods in their life. It's too cruel for the path your life took to not be remembered by anyone. Frieren, I wonder if she has to worry about it. There has to have been books and ballads written about the heroes, so she will probably be remembered in song. Question is, though, for how long? Right? Even if you take the span of our civilization, how many hymns to old heroes have been kept and exist from, Sumerian times. We know a couple of Sumerian mythos, but I'm pretty sure we don't know any stories about great Sumerian warriors. For example, right? Even that knowledge in that span of time, like what, over 2,000 years, barely, it just faded so much. And it didn't fade completely only because of archaeology, only because of interest in the past. If people have no interest in the past in this world, that knowledge is just going to die. It's just going to fade. It's just going to fade. So there's a question. Will the people of this world carry the torch, carry the word, carry on the existence of the heroes and their deeds, or will they forget? Because depending on that, Frieren might also need a goddess like that, or she might have no need, because her deeds will be known for generations to come. We've lived a long time to get to this point. Yeah, that's just something we desire. Yes, indeed, that is something we desire, but are desires wrong? No, they aren't. They are desires. There is no wrong or right about them. If you don't believe in a goddess, then I'll praise you instead. Yeah, chances are he will be alive while Frieren is still alive, or on Frieren's deathbed, should she die. Are elves even mortal? I mean, I know that they can be killed, but can they die of old age? That's a very good question. I'm sure the goddess will praise me. It really seems like Hyder had the same approach to it. I want to live a good life so that the goddess of life praises me because I lived a good and proper life. That's also an interesting thing. They don't say, I want to be a good person so that I go to heaven. They say, I want to be a good person so that I get praised by the goddess of life. Does the concept of heaven and hell exist, I wonder? Or is it just heaven as in the afterworld? And depending on your deeds, you either get praised by the goddess of life or you get scolded by her, but you ultimately end up in the same spot. Interesting. The mythology and the world building on this world really, really is interesting. So if you tell me about yourself, I'll praise you instead. Nothing to praise? Well, you've been keeping up your suppression for this long. That's praiseworthy. That takes a lifetime to accomplish. Tell me about that. That's a big accomplishment. again, how is her scarf tied? Is it like one scarf and then there's a ring of fabric ring made of the same material that scarf is that you put the scarf through? That would be about the only explanation I have. Why do so many strange people serve the goddess? Yeah. And yeah, you'll see him again in heaven because you're going there, so of course. And we will probably meet as well because we're living for centuries, for millennia. Chances are, in this time span, eventually you will end up in the same tavern in the same city. Eventually. In 100 years, 200, 300 maybe, but eventually. And the keywords. I'm a mild-mannered person, but even I'm pissed off. It's a replica, the strongest warrior in the village. They're a gift to honor warriors who have worked hard. Don't tell the rest of the family. Backstory for Himmel, backstory for Eisen. Backstory for either of them. I think I heard Eisen's voice, so perhaps backstory for Eisen. How did he become a warrior? Probably, possibly, maybe. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, good episode. Good episode. Nothing particularly noteworthy happened. Nothing particularly important. We just got a lot of world building, a little bit of character development for Frieren, a little bit for Stark as well, a little bit for Fern, even. She became a little bit more pious, I guess. And we have a new goal. We have a goal in the city with the funny bee. I'm just gonna call it funny bee letter. To get Frieren certification so that they can travel the northern lands safely. And that's basically it. I mean, that's basically it about this episode. It was good. It was exactly what I expected as far as the levels of importance and excitement go. Not much of either, but we needed that after the previous arc has concluded and before we start the next arc, which I fully believe will also be full of excitement. I love the characters, I love Fern, I love the world building, everything works just so perfectly well together. You can really see that someone crafted this world lovingly, that it hasn't just been written as the author goes, but rather there's a whole like backstory set up and there are notes on the gods and on the customs and everything like that, and it all comes together in this story. Cool shit. The only thing I can criticize was why did Frieren decide to set off in the middle of winter instead of waiting a little bit for spring? I don't know. Maybe it's something significant that wasn't mentioned. Maybe we're gonna learn about it in the future. Maybe it was just skipped in the adaptation. If that was the case, you guys tell me. As long as it's not a spoiler, I'm gonna take any clarifications gladly in the comments down below. And yeah, I think that's it. So, what did you think of this? What did you guys think of this episode? My reaction, my theories. Tell me all about it in the comments down below. No spoilers, please. Spoilers, go to my Discord here, also in the description. And note to the comments. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to be notified of future episodes of not only Frieren but also Magia Record, Helk, Shangri-La Frontier, Shine, plenty of others coming in the future. Click the bell to be notified of when I go live, because I do sometimes. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon down below, where for $10 a month you get early access to non-seasonal shows like Magia Record, and for just $1 you get a role on the Discord and a place in the credits. You can also support me directly on YouTube via memberships, super thanks, stuff like that. And if you don't want to spend any money whatsoever, you don't have to. Share my content, spread the word, it costs you absolutely nothing and helps the channel an awful lot. And now, with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do all the good stuff, and I'm Gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's my wonderful Patreons: QB, Without a Net, Survivor, Zayrainer, Aquamancer, David, Dr. Walt, Marshik, Ali, Fassel, and Hans Peter. And you can join them without having to be stuck in a shed for 6 months.